Hey guys, my name is Mike, and I'm a former New York City bouncer who went back to school in his late 20s. Got two master's degrees, studied business analytics, and got an MBA. And then I got a job in one of the top consulting firms in the world doing strategy and finance consulting. And I live in my dream home now, drive my dream car, been doing great. And so I'm just here on YouTube, just giving some advice on some things that I've noticed throughout my years, all the wisdom that I've accumulated, and trying to help, give a little bit of advice to people who are hopefully trying to get themselves to go like I did from, sleeping on the streets, making $10,000 a year eventually to, $10,000 a month and living in a beautiful home and, making more. I'm in the process of building a business and, follow me if you want to kind of follow my journey through that whole thing. So I wanted to talk with you about kind of like wasting time and thinking, realizing that your life is passing you by. And, that is really manifested in, when you spend an hour or, whatever, even if you spend 10, 20 minutes, right? But if you find yourself spending too much time, whatever that is for you, scrolling through social media, watching YouTube shorts or watching videos or TV or whatever, then, you shut your phone off and you look up and you just feel disgusted with yourself. And you feel disgusted, you feel something, but you don't really talk about, you really don't think about it, but you notice that that's happening. And finally, after like 2 years or so, you finally say, I'm going to address this issue. What is it that I feel disgusted about? And, it's that disgust is the realization that you are wasting your life. That. I mean, almost almost immediately, right? You might be doing that and you go, God, I just can't believe I wasted 10 minutes doing that. And on the one hand, it might be kind of funny or, somewhat self-aware to be doing that day to day. But after some time, you realize that you're accumulating a lot of lost time, a lot of lost hours, a lot of lost hours every week. And then a lot of lost days every year, and then a lot of lost months every couple of years of wasted productivity and wasted time you could be spending on doing something more important. And, at first you ignore it, but eventually you become attentive to that disgust, and you can begin to unpack it. And what you're trying to unpack is you're trying to reveal why you are disgusted. Why do you feel that sense of unease? And you will eventually develop actions to remedy it. And it's not easy to develop into a plan, right? It's not easy to develop some kind of a plan. You actually may have to work with somebody to figure that out. So you feel that something's wrong. You say, I feel disgusted. Why am I disgusted? It's because I'm wasting time. Why am I wasting time? And it's kind of a difficult thing to sit down and figure out. And you're wasting time, but wasting time for what? What is it that you're wasting time that you could be doing otherwise? You can say, well, I could be working more. I could be working another job. Or I could be working on educating myself so I can get a better job, so I can become an entrepreneur or improve my business or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Improve my relationships with my family, with my kids. It's not that you're necessarily repressing your emotions, that you're thinking, oh, I feel disgusted, I'm just going to ignore it. That's not necessarily what you're doing. It's that you are. It's difficult. You're sort of foregoing the process, that difficult process that is necessary for you to unpack your emotions. That's what you're doing. You're not repressing the emotion. You are just kind of putting off the process of having to dig up that body to figure out what happened and how to remedy the situation. But the problem is that the longer you take to dig up that body, the more rotten it's going to become, and the more difficult of a mess it's going to be to clean up. The harder it's going to be for you to figure it out. But you have to get started. You can't just keep ignoring it forever. And if you do, you're going to find yourself, at a much older age, really regretting it. Or you may not. But you're here watching this because you know that if you ignore trying to figure out what is it that makes you so upset with yourself after you waste time, after you go on a time suck and you find yourself wasting that time, if you keep ignoring that, you're eventually going to, you are going to end up regretting it. So, for myself, I loved being a bouncer in New York City. It was a great, fun, and exciting life, but I ultimately knew that it was a waste of time. It was a fun job. It was great. I have tons of war stories, that I'm sharing on this channel. It was an amazing experience to be there in the. It's not necessarily the pre-cell phone era. There was still cell phones, of course, but it was like the pre-social media era, the pre-going live era. So, so there was a lot that we could get away with, and a lot of, crazy stuff that happened that, never made it to YouTube, because that was pretty much the only place to upload videos back then. But the point is that as much fun as that job was, I knew that it was just a big waste of time, because I wasn't anywhere closer to getting to my destiny, getting to the goals that I wanted, which in my case was to become to be in a very high degree, high level of responsibility in a corporate structure. So that was, I would find that level of fulfillment in either investment banking or strategy consulting. And so obviously being a bouncer is nowhere close to becoming a strategy consultant and to advise mega, huge corporations on finance and technology strategy, which is what I do now. And it was, I had to go through that difficult process, and it took a long time to figure out how am I going to, first to identify what exactly did I want. And, eventually I got there. But the point is that I've, more recently, right, my whole job back then, my whole career, it wasn't a career, right, but I did it for many, many years. That whole job, all that whole life was a distraction. Eventually I had to become clear-headed and figure out what is it that I wanted to do. But even today, right, I'm trying to build a business, and I find myself wasting time. I find myself, watching YouTube videos, and that's really my thing, is watching YouTube videos, watching YouTube shorts, and I find myself wasting a lot of time. And it's funny because, I quit video games, I quit drinking to free up my time, and it's massively helped. I go to the gym, I work out, 2 hours every single day. Well, I shouldn't say every single day. I lift 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and then I run 7 days a week. I run 10 miles a day, 7 days a week, so 70 miles a week. And I'm able to do that because I eliminated these massive time sucks in my life that I had from drinking and video gaming. But now, as I've become more and more productive, and I put myself in more and more productive situations, like running 2 businesses that I have right now, I find myself sometimes avoiding the hard work of dealing with client work or prospecting or calling up, new potential clients. So, I am very clear at why I'm very clear and clearly understand why am I unhappy when I waste time watching YouTube. The problem is actually implementing those solutions, but that's, for another video. So in your case, figure it out. When you feel unhappy and you're trying to figure out what am I wasting my time with, figure it out. Sit down and actually do the work. Get a piece of paper and do that difficult work. So I'm gonna leave, with a very haunting but a very true, statement, which is, do the hard work, or else the hard work is going to do you. So do it now. Dig up that body. Don't wait. It's gonna get worse. So thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe, and leave any comments. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.